Shalom, I'm Rabbi Jonathan Ginsburg, the Ezra Rabbanim Dallas Township Jewish Congregation. So what is wrong with former President Jimmy Carter? Why would he write such a stupid, ridiculous, incorrect book? Well, it was bad enough that his presidency was riddled with horrible failures. Nobody until him thought it was possible to have high unemployment, high interest rates, and high inflation, but he proved that it was, ruining the economy. He made America look impotent with the Iran hostage takeover, and told several people who commented recently that he would have sold Israel down the river if he would have had a second term. So now we know what's really behind his new book. It's riddled with flaws and inaccuracies, but since he is a former president and it's on the bestseller list, it has to be exposed for all of the distortions and inaccuracies and lies that it contains. Among just a few of the many, many countless errors in that book, he kind of touts Yasser Arafat as some kind of hero, when Arafat had many opportunities to make peace with Israel, to have a Palestinian state during his lifetime, and instead of accepting the unbelievably large gesture of Prime Minister Barak at Camp David, he's walked off in a huff and started Intifada number 2. Carter asserts in the book that the whole problem would have been avoided if Israel would not have quote-unquote colonized Judea, Samaria, the West Bank. Well, first of all, Jordan controlled it from 1948 till 1967 and did nothing to help the Palestinians. Second of all, Jordan itself was a made-up country that didn't exist in ancient times and just made up by the Western powers. So what gave them a right to that land? Jews were given a right to that land by the Bible, and Jews have lived there continuously, uninterrupted, and only left at all when they were forced out by powers. And so why would it be colonization? And in fact, Israel voted to accept the Palestinian state when Israel came into being in 1947 by the UN vote. And at that time, the Palestinians and the Arabs rejected it. So Carter's got the whole story completely backwards. He also focuses on Security Council Resolution 242. Well, he must know full well, unless he's crazy, that that resolution does not call for withdrawal from all lands. Israel's withdrawn from many lands, given up huge amounts of territory for the sake of peace. And what have they got for it? Well, a cold peace with Egypt, a peace agreement with Jordan. And you know that Israel would make concessions in order to create a Palestinian state if they had somebody to talk to. The problem is not Israel's side. It's continual bombing from Hamas. It's suicide bombing attacks. It's the polls that show that overwhelmingly people in those Palestinian territories want to destroy Israel. That's the problem. You've got to put the onus where it is. Then he talks about the wall that Israel's building. Well, first of all, only a small segment's actually a wall. Most of it's a fence. It's kind of like the fence America's thinking of building in the south to protect its borders. Before any kind of security barrier went up in Israel, Israelis were dying by the dozens and hundreds in suicide bombing attacks, where the Palestinians would send their children off with backpacks full of bombs to randomly kill innocent people. So now the security fence is up, and that's dropped dramatically. So how is this Israel's fault? Tell the Palestinians to stop wanting to kill Israelis. And you think about all of that, just a few of the huge mistakes that they've made. Israel's made compromise after compromise, almost obsessively trying to figure out a way to make peace. In every turn, it's been answered by bombs and missiles and suicide bombing. So, Carter, you've got the book completely backwards. Your title, Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid, is incredibly offensive. Now, fortunately, his book was bumped off the bestseller list by a new book by Michael Oren, who talks about the long history of Zionism in America from 1776 and how American leaders really understood the significance of the Jewish people's return to the state. The Jews just want a tiny little piece of territory to share with its Arab neighbors and its Arab citizens in a democracy. It's the only democracy in the whole Middle East. We read every day in the paper stories about the kind of theocracies that are completely taking away people's individual rights in the other countries around there. So let those countries become democratic. Let them learn to live in peace with the few Jews that want to live there. Carter doesn't talk at all about the hundreds of thousands of Jews, 700,000 Jews expelled from Arab countries when Israel became a state and without any compensation. So Jimmy Carter, I don't know what's the problem with you, why you would write a book so full of lies and historical inaccuracies like that. I mean, maybe you just had it in for Israel, as you told several people in the top of your administration. That's maybe why so many people have fled the board of your center in Atlanta, because they recognize now that your single-minded mission is to hurt Israel for some crazy reason. Anyway, that's a little bit about this book and why the book is ridiculous, full of mistakes and errors, and needs to be refuted.